Chris Eubank Jr. there calling basically all the promoters scumbags. Frank Warren, you're a scumbag. Eddie Hearn, Frank Smith, scumbag. Callie Sowland, scumbag. Obviously, he's retracted
No,
his
slave
words
contract,
since.
he said about Callum
Yeah, he
Fowler.
did to Calla. Yeah, and Calla's responded as well, saying, look, 1 second, I promoted all these fighters, and he named all the fighters that he's promoted over the world in recent years. Ask them what I'm like. But, I will say this about Chris. Gives you gold all the time. Hey, I mean, because all of a sudden, as I said, it was a dull press conference. You obviously decided you didn't even want to turn up. You was in Cyprus. And all of a sudden, it became quite an exciting press conference because of Chris Eubank Jr. So he knows what he's doing.
Yeah, he went there. I mean, he went there with the lines prepared, didn't he? He was fully aware of what he was doing. Yeah. And rather like David Hay in the past, who was going to beat Audley Harrison worse than Rodney King in the LA riots, and the severed Klitschko heads with the T-shirt. Chris Eubank Jr. falls into the same category. He's a master of promotion. He is box office. He's very clever how he does things. I've always gotten incredibly well with Chris. He's very clever about how he goes around about things. But I just thought he chose his attack on those three prominent promoters, Warren, Hearn and Calla Sowland, at the wrong time and in the wrong place.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. Because they've got him on board.
Is there a better time? Is there a better time though? If that's what you're going to do,
but he's not right. He's detracted his comments.
This is my point. No, but I don't agree with what he's done, because even when I threw it to him, I was like, okay, what are you doing? But if you are going to do that, surely there isn't a better time to do it. They're all there, apart from Calla. Like, the world's media are watching. If you are going to do something like that, whether wrong or right, that's the right time to do it.
Well, I mean, it's a big platform to do it on, but to denigrate,
this is my point.
Denigrate a promoter that's been in the sport 46 years, to denigrate one of the great young promoters who's going to go on to be a Hall of Famer and a legend in Eddie Hearn, who are both working together at the moment as well, to critique Calla Sowland, who really helped Eubank make his name in the Super Sixes series. And I hadn't heard that, and particularly I think to air the legal case with Frank Warren on that platform was probably just the wrong thing to do. It wasn't the right time, the right place. I think, given that he's been brought in to the fold, if you like, into the Riyadh season. He's been brought in to a situation where he's almost got a gimme against Zaramata. He's turned down a fight with Hamza Shiraz. They clearly want him in the mix. And, obviously he thanked Turki Al Sheikh, and he thanked him because he's been accepted into the fold. So what was fascinating, Ade, for me, was how quickly it was dealt with behind the scenes as well. Because I think someone's clearly said to him, unless you retract that, you're not getting involved here. You're not. I imagine that's what was said to him,
Probably, yeah, and probably rightly so. But what I will say, and this isn't to defend Chris, it's more for young boxers coming up. Like, I've never, we cover various sports. Obviously, you've covered so many different sports back in the day. I'm lucky enough to cover a few sports now. I can't think of a sport where so many boxers sue promoters, or promoters have boxers out of the ring and in court cases more than this sport. It's insane. So if Chris was right or wrong, I don't know. But it's not like we don't know this doesn't happen. Like, how many times have fighters been in promotional contracts with promoters? I mean, Anthony Yarde is a fighter right now, who's out of the ring. I think one of the best light heavyweights in the world. He's obviously going through issues with his promoter. Terence Crawford had things to say about Bob Arum. Like, there's so many top fighters. Andre Ward was out of the ring for years. Bernard Hopkins. There's so many top fighters that seem to have issues with promoters. And I think it needs to be looked at. There's obviously a problem with some of these contracts these fighters are signing.
Well, I think there's
a big problem.
I think there's also a point at which a young man becomes a mature man and has a family and he has mortgages and he has children, where he suddenly realizes, hang on a minute, I'm putting my life on the line when I'm fighting, and I'm not, and someone else who isn't fighting is getting too big a rewards, and I think that's what happens. And then you have very messy
Yeah.
divorces financially, and I do think that happens. And I think it happens when boxers suddenly go from that median level up to a higher level and a higher level, and they think, well, why is someone getting $1.5 million and I'm getting 4? Or so I'm just throwing it out there as an example.
No, you're right. No, you are so right. I do think there is a stage where fighters think they're worth a bit more, and want to get a bit more of the cut.
And their trainer, and there's manager, and there's so. And I get it. I do get it, because they suddenly realise what the effort they've put in, and bits of their life and chunks of their life are being taken away by fighting.
And I think, and I stand to be corrected, I think Turkey's now seeing that as well. I think he's seeing what some of these fighters are actually taking when it's all said and done. So, okay, example, Turkey could be paying fighter X 1 million. And then he sees fighter X walking away with 200,000. He's like, well, what's happened here? So I think he started seeing that. By the way, guys, that was just me chucking out numbers there. It's not real. But I think he's starting to see what goes on behind the scenes as well. And he isn't very happy with it.
But you're not too far off, because if you earn $1 million, you've got 40% tax, and you've got your promoter's fee, and you've got your manager's fee, and you've got your training camp fee. It could be
it's a lot,
it could be the 400 you're taking home afterwards. I'm just saying that
it's crazy. No, you are correct. Thank you. You are right. What I think this Chris Eubank Jr. rant has done again is almost we've forgotten about the main event again, and I felt like it kind of got sort of hidden away when we did the 5 versus 5. It was like, okay, Frank versus Eddie. Oh, and we have, by the way, Bivol Beterbiev, and I want it to be so much more about Bivol Beterbiev, but Bivol Beterbiev seems to be the biggest fight in recent years without the biggest hype. Like, no one, like, we in the trade are talking about it, but that's it. Like, no casual fan is jumping onto it, and it's such a shame that it's being lost again.
It's a terrific fight, and the great thing about it is when you think of their styles and you think of what they've done, you just go back and forth the entire time on it, wondering who's going to win the fight, and that's what's amazing about it.
But think about the hype for the other undisputeds we've had in the last 10 months, like Crawford Spence, Fury Usyk. I mean, and then you've got this one, and it's like, well, the hype level is just...
Yeah, but they don't sell to the mainstream, do they? Because neither man is prepared to step outside his shell. They're both very restrained characters. They won't say a bad word about their opponent. They won't even say a word about their opponent, not even a good word about... There's no word about their opponent. They only focus on themselves. It's not... It's weird, isn't it? It just shows you that hype and promotion are so important in fight sports, and why not always the best fighters are the biggest names and earn the greatest amount of money. Stylistically, it's a fantastic fight. Stylistically, they're both brilliant fighters. It's just one of those. We can't do anything about it. It's why, like you say, Eubank Jr. creating waves helps to promote the event in lots of ways. The fact that Fabio Wardley and Fraser Clark are having their rematch on the card, the fact that Sky Nicholson and Raven Chapman are going to be the first 2 women to fight each other, and I quite like that fight. They've done well to build the card in the right way, and I am so excited to sit ringside and see that fight next week between Beterbiev and Bivol. And again, the Saudi Arabians have made that possible. And I think we would have seen the fight in the world, but we wouldn't have seen it with this magnitude.
Yeah, not this
or a press conference in England, even,
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app, and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.